Right, episode 2, Nature versus Nurture. It's kind of interesting sort of just backstory, really, on some characters, but we haven't had much information on so far. I was expecting, actually, this to be all about Miguel, since it's the first episode of the season where he's conscious. But actually, there's not very much of him. Johnny and Daniel working together to find Robbie, which kind of went in a different direction than I was actually expecting it to. I thought they were going to bond like they did in season 1 when they were driving around together. But actually, there's just the same amount of friction that you normally see between the two of them. Johnny's being kind of a disobedient schoolboy, almost, with him sort of messing around with whatever those things were he was eating in the car. I find it interesting, while they're looking for Robbie, Daniel gets a message about Miguel, that he's woken up. And Johnny's reaction is kind of sort of nonplussed. It's kind of sort of stoic and not really sort of reacting in any kind of way. It's like, oh, okay. Because I guess at this point he's still very much focused on finding Robbie. Because obviously they go to the garage, they find a bit of information about him, and then after that's over, Johnny goes and obviously has to see Miguel. So it's interesting that he finishes off, or what he feels like he's finishing things off with finding Robbie before he goes to see Miguel. He obviously realises that this is more important because Robbie even is actually his son. And Daniel obviously very focused on helping out Robbie in... I guess he's a more sort of grounded kind of person that understands the way that the world works, understanding logically that it's no good just running from the police. Robbie needs to turn himself in and it'll make the sentence less severe. He sort of understands that Robbie is a troubled child who got a bit sort of carried away in the school fight. In the past, he probably would have just rejected Robbie for what he did to Miguel. But now, obviously, Johnny is much more focused on trying to help him out. And possibly he's listening to Daniel's reasoning a little bit as well. Interesting couple of sort of wisecrack remarks from Amanda. Daniel is kind of the voice of reason between him and Johnny, but Amanda is sort of the even more sort of sensible person, sort of understanding that this is all kind of just sort of silly. Why don't you just call the cops and have them chase him down? And I thought maybe we were going to get some backstory on, well, not backstory, but some filling in on exactly what Robbie's been up to between the end of season 2 and this point. He's been on the run. He's apparently had a haircut while he's been on the run. But no, we didn't really get any of that. Possibly we'll get that later on. Because they didn't want it to be repetitive, they've decided Tori is not going to go to juvie for what she did. And the reason for that is because her mum is very ill. I wouldn't be surprised if she's pretty close to death. Maybe she's going to die later on in this season or next season or something. She's having to look after her brother. She mentioned the previous season that she had a brother as well. And Kreese sort of comes in and tries to sort of help her out. He may have sort of other plans. This might not be him just being sort of kind of compassionate or caring for her. Maybe he feels like he needs her. Sort of helping her out, obviously, in the sort of Kreese way that he does by sort of threatening somebody. Also, a couple of interesting matching cuts we get in this episode. I think there was one with the word lift, and then they cut to a petrol pump that says lift on it. And also Kreese threatening to cut this guy's finger with a cigar slicer, and then it cuts to Miguel slicing a sausage. Almost sort of very sort of graphic matching cuts there, but they're very sort of clever the way they've done that. Looks like they've stepped out the budget a little bit because we had a little bit of a car chase in this episode. It almost felt like kind of an episode of a mission on GTA. They're chasing after this guy and then they chase him on foot and then there's a bit of a fight. Lots of fans are sort of demanding Johnny and Daniel have a fight, possibly that was it, a little bit of fan service there by having them have that little bit of a fist fight. I think the writers are probably very much sort of focused on trying to help them bond and unite about their common interests. Playing up the very sort of similar characters, it's just Daniel's has a bit more respect and is more respected as well, and is a bit more sort of down to earth. That's sort of shown in the prison scene, with their different techniques of trying to interrogate those two friends of Robbie's. Miguel has this, I think, similar attitude to Carmen about the fight towards Johnny. He blames him, and he says basically the same thing Hawk said to Johnny at the end of season 2. I showed mercy, and this is what's happened. Possibly that's a little bit of, saying things you don't really mean when you're incredibly angry. Possibly also it's the fact that, Johnny can't really explain how that's happened because, it can't be explained. Sometimes life just isn't fair. That's just one of those things. I think Miguel, in hindsight, is probably going to, when he has time to think about it, probably thinks, I shouldn't have said that. And he may ask Carmen to invite Johnny to come and see him again and he might apologise. Or possibly Johnny's just going to say, fuck it. Miguel's my surrogate son, I have to help him out regardless of what he thinks. Sort of got a bit of backstory on Tori about her mum and her upbringing and her life and what she's been doing since the fight at the school and how kind of crap her life is. It sort of makes a lot more sense why her attitude towards fighting is so sort of, fuck everyone else, no mercy and everything, because life has not been fair to her. Similar with the backstory we get on Kreese, until he joined the army, life was sort of not fair to him. And it's an interesting kind of twist in the opening to the episode. We're obviously supposed to think that jock is Kreese because he even uses Kreese's little motto about no mercy. But no, Kreese actually was a bit of a loser at one point in his life as well. So that was cool. I don't know if maybe we're going to meet that girlfriend of his as an older lady at some point during the season. And we also meet Robbie's mother again. She's in rehab and she seems to be doing very well. Possibly she's going to come out of rehab at some point and help out Johnny in some way. So yeah, a lot of interesting sort of backstory in this one about maybe having a bit of a shitty attitude towards life because life has been shitty to you. It's sort of an expansion of Tori's speech last season about the world shows no mercy, so why should we? Really enjoyed Johnny in this episode. Had me laughing a number of times. Yeah, really like this episode, and I will see you for episode 3 soon.